right now. He is a college basketball analyst. Borky, we're going to have to fix that. We've got this picture of Dane Bradshaw on the screen, and he's all buttoned up, and he's got his little quarter zipped, and he doesn't have a hair out of place. I need the Dane Bradshaw standing there in his Tennessee basketball uniform with both hands on the head, or getting some coaching advice from Bruce Pearl, or one of those shots. Dane, what's up, man?
I like your thought process. I'll look a little bit younger, and the biceps will be a little bit more defined. So I'm good with that.
What was it you said? Was it Todd Abernathy that played for Ole Miss that kind of drove you a little crazy with the biceps?
That's funny. Yeah, Todd was jacked, man, and I shared with him plenty of times where, in the off season, whenever we were getting extra curls in the weight room, we'd call it doing the Abernathys. So, he developed a reputation for himself. Nobody can match the guns of Ole Miss Todd Abernathy.
Get the beach body going there. Hey, I want to talk basketball with you, but I got a question for you. We were talking baseball a few minutes ago, and Tennessee baseball came up. Obviously, they had a great weekend in Oxford this past weekend. Have you jumped on the Tennessee baseball bandwagon? It feels like there are a lot of people that are doing that.
I'm proud of them, but man, I couldn't name you 5 players. I hadn't gone to games. I'm not a baseball guy, but I do respect and I love how relevant baseball is in the SEC. And before they got it going, you'd look around the conference and see these incredible atmospheres and think, why the heck we can't have that? But so they got it rolling, and the athletic director, Danny White, he's making sure to secure these coaches when they have success, and for a long time. He gave Barnes an extension. Coach Vitello, got him locked up last year, so hopefully they're here to stay. But no, I'm not at a point where I could feel good about myself going on here and talking trash to you about the Tennessee whooping on Ole Miss or anything when I didn't probably even watch a whole inning.
Yeah, you know what? Just wait until May or June when you take that whole brood of Bradshaw kids to Lindsey Nelson, and they've all got jerseys on and the whole deal. You'll be on the bandwagon before long. It is cool to see what's in it. I think they had the 4th largest attendance in program history for a midweek game earlier this week. So obviously folks are jumping on board. Hey, I want to ask you an SEC basketball question before we get to the Final Four that gets started this weekend. Did we overvalue the league this year based on the results in the tournament, or can you still have been a really, really good conference that had a really, really bad weekend?
No, I don't think we overvalued. Maybe I'm biased, but I think the body of work was there. But when you saw what was, when you went into March, you weren't surprised to see Alabama lose as a 6 seed. They were struggling so much. They weren't playing smart at all. Nate Oates was frustrated with his guys. That was not a surprise. LSU, they're sitting there, and the coach knows he's done. So essentially a lame duck coach trying to put a run together in that situation. So that wasn't a surprise. And then outside of that, you're like, well, you got Kentucky was certainly a huge surprise, and nobody thought they'd lose to St. Peter's. But I think that was probably the one team I overvalued a little bit because you kept, at least I did, kept giving them a pass for any games they lost where they weren't fully healthy. But then in the last couple weeks, when they just really didn't seem to be the same team that they were when they were healthy, once Washington and Wheeler came back, those guys, it just never seemed like they were themselves. And I kept kind of dismissing it, thinking, oh, no, they'll be fine. And obviously they weren't. And then, of course, Tennessee, you can't say they weren't playing their best basketball at the best time because they were. I mean, they ran through the SEC tournament. They had a great first-round game. It looked like all their inconsistent shooting woes were behind them. And then at the worst time possible, it reared its ugly head. So a little bit of a perfect storm. But I don't think it's any sort of panic as if, oh boy, the league just wasn't as good as we thought it was. No different than, the ACC can boast and brag about how well they did in the NCAA tournament, and that's what you do as a fan of your conference, is you say, well, we got the final word. Yeah, but that doesn't mean you were really that good all year long. You came through in the clutch, good for you, but that doesn't necessarily change anybody's perception of what happened, until March Madness.
Yeah, and I don't know which you would prefer to have, right? I mean, all season long, the conversation was SEC or Big 12, best league out there, and the ACC was nowhere close to the conversation. And you get to the end, and you get the SEC sitting at home, the Big 12, Kansas obviously there, the Big 10, mostly sitting at home watching, and look up, and you got two ACC teams. It is a pretty cool story, I guess, if you're a fan of college basketball. First time ever for Carolina and Duke to meet in the NCAA tournament. Obviously, Coach K is about to hang it up. First year for Hubert Davis. There's some really cool storylines that go along with this game.
Oh, no question. It is. I mean, everybody keeps saying the basketball gods and all that, and it's been compelling television for sure. And I just think it's so huge for Hubert Davis, even though all the attention is on Coach K, rightfully so. But in terms of the passing of the baton, I mean, this was so big for Hubert Davis when North Carolina was getting beat. They had a few, not only losses, but getting beat by 29, 27, whatever it was, multiple times. And you start to wonder, wow, is this going to be the guy? Can he really be the successor to Roy Williams? And so this really helps protect that North Carolina program. I think a very crucial run here for Hubert Davis, that they can keep that momentum, capitalize on it. The rest of the SEC, look, Leonard Hamilton, I don't know how long he'll keep coaching. Jim Boeheim, of course, Coach K. And so kind of going back to that SEC conversation, yeah, the ACC was much better in March Madness, but basketball future-wise, which conference are you really hanging your hat on to be the most consistent over the next 5 to 10 years? And I still like the SEC.
All of the focus is on one half of the Final Four, right? Everybody's talking about Carolina Duke. Are we missing anything by not taking a close look at Kansas and Villanova?
Yes, I mean, because they're both really good teams. They're very likable. Kansas is a team that it's not their most talented team they've ever had, but they're playing hard together. Villanova, they got one of their key players went down, and they've got a short rotation as it is, so they're kind of really only about 6 deep. And Jay Wright has been really the best coach in the country for the past decade, and he's been phenomenal. And when people thought he couldn't get over the hump at Villanova, now that question never gets brought up. He's consistency. I think 20-3 in his last 23 games in the NCAA tournament. That's just absurd.
That's insane.
But I will say, those teams being an afterthought, if the North Carolina Duke game, especially if it goes down to kind of the final few possessions, the emotion, the energy of knocking off your rival, advancing, it does make you wonder, hey, is that going to almost be the national championship game for them, to where is it going to give the winner of the Kansas-Villanova game a little bit of an upper hand, just considering the exhaustion and everything that goes into this rivalry, with them being the meeting for the first time in history in the NCAA tournament?
And Dane, I'm going to throw the NCAA a bone. I don't think, generally speaking, that's a well-run organization. I think it's a bunch of morons that run that place. But at least somebody had enough of a brain to say, yeah, play Villanova, Kansas first, and then get Carolina Duke in the nightcap.
Yeah, yeah. It's all, the ratings. The people that put that together, I'd like to think, are smarter than I am on it. But I will say this: I think everybody from a business side was rooting against St. Peter's, no matter how much people love the underdog story.
Yeah.
From a rating standpoint, this should be, no matter where you put these matchups, whoever plays first, second, you would like to think this is a no-lose situation. Now, it might have a higher ceiling with some better strategy, but it should be a no-lose. They'll make up for that COVID year in one weekend.
You certainly would think so. Tip of the cap to Michael Borky. He has adjusted the Dane Bradshaw picture. We've got Dane Bradshaw in an NCAA tournament game, both hands on his head, in need of a little manscaping, but that's okay. We'll overlook that. Give me a winner in each of the two Final Four games. Give me your national champion. We got 30 seconds.
Duke, Kansas, and then just when you think Duke can't lose, Bill Self ends up getting himself a title. How about that?
Ooh.
Not that he doesn't have one already, but I do wonder, a storybook as it would be for Coach K, and I'm so intrigued by that. I have to wonder if there isn't an upset, if you will, in the tournament, just given all the energy and emotion that will come into that